Hello to all my friends out there. So I'm making some yogurt before I go to bed. And so I brought the milk almost to a boil and I kept it there for about 15 to 30 minutes while I took a bath. And so now I have to let it cool down to warm. I've done many videos on yogurt, but I will write the recipe in the comments in case any of you want to have a recipe. I think I'll put the yogurt and the banana cupcake recipe. I'm doing a cookbook. It takes me forever, so I save my ginger tea. If it's iced tea, I don't mind drinking it plain. So I wanted to do a quick chat because one of the comments was really good, and something occurred to me. And the comment was, well, what do you store for food in your car? A lot of my followers were new. So some months ago, this is my yogurt. This time's really cheap because I used my own yogurt that I already made. So, okay. I was doing the Cheap RV Living channel, you know, as one of my subscriptions. I'd be sad if they were gone. And mainly I was interested in cheap RV living, more like for evacuation. And so for cheap RV living, I think it would be best to live in a van rather than a motorhome. Is more cumbersome and expensive to maintain. A van would be better. And so I was watching all kinds of these videos, and another thing I was really interested in is what do these people eat, you know, when they're living in a car? And very little mention was made of food, to tell you the truth. And I thought, wow, you know, it's really strange. They said things like make sure you have a can opener, stuff like that. Then, you know, for a while I was doing the dumpster diving, and if you saw my video, I got, what was it, some kind of remote this week. That was good. In the dumpster diving, I've gotten a nice chair and a remote, both of which could be sold at the swap meet. And then, you know, I had videos on the food pantries. And so how this all tied in is I made comment back to the follower, well, what I stockpiled was like 30 cans of food, you know, like I had spaghetti, I had raviolis, I had chicken and noodles, I had tamales, anything that was like canned food. I had beef stew, I had corned beef hash, you know, anything that was like canned food. And then, you know, when I was watching I thought, well, maybe they don't want everyone knowing their food, you know, what they eat, you know. And so when I was going to the food pantries, I heard, we don't cook. And I thought, why don't we? It's cheaper, but they don't cook. They just do not cook. And so what I realized after having gone to, this has all been a learning process, you know. When you're trying to find out stuff, you know, it all starts connecting together. Okay, so what I realized is the food I saw was food they had gotten at the food banks or food pantries or churches, which would make sense if you have to live in your car, you don't have much money, you know. So I did many videos recently on the food pantry thing. And so what I realize is most likely, I'm not 100%, I mean not everybody, but a lot of those people who are reduced to living in their cars don't have any food either. And so that food that I saw, you know, when I'm trying to figure out what do they do, was food they had gotten at a food pantry. And so, you know, it's better than nothing, you know. And on the dumpster diving thing, you know, since I've been doing the dumpster diving, you know, looking into it, I haven't really been able to do much dumpster diving because there's really nothing in there I want to get out, to tell you the truth. At least not at the dumpsters I was looking in. I looked in there and I said, nah, no thank you. But it is a resource to get things if, you know, you can figure out how to do that. I did all kinds of videos with the car living. I still find it very, very interesting. I'm still looking into that. And one of the followers made a good comment, and she said she had food in her car, and when she was caught in a traffic jam, they ate the food in the car. So I think that's still a good idea, you know, to stockpile 30 meals. That's some of the stuff they give you at the food bank is like already prepared meals like beef stew, things like that. I did see one guy, if you don't cook, there can be all kinds of reasons why people who go to the food bank don't cook. Like one thing, no propane. You know, you're broke, you run out of propane. Another thing is, you know, if it's prolonged dysfunction, you know, a lot of times, you know, when I would do hair, when they were coming in off living on the streets, and you know they finally got this housing and stuff, I noticed they didn't cook either, and they were kind of unhealthy, probably due to poor eating habits. So for the car food, I would say your best car food, you know, I'm not trying to not give an answer to this, but your best car food would be your stockpile food. And your best stockpile food would be food that you could survive on. And then most likely with very little cooking. And someone mentioned, well, what if you know, if there was no electricity? Well, that's why it's a good idea to have these camp stoves. They're not too expensive. You can get them at Walmart. But on those too, you can run out of propane. Also, barbecues, you can run out of briquettes. So they have the briquettes now, though, for $1 at the 99-cent stores around here. So, okay, you guys, that's my little chat on car food. And another thing I was thinking about, you know, car food would be like camp food or picnic food. In fact, you know, some of my meals, that's a good idea, you know, camp food or picnic food. For camp food, it would be pork and beans. And, you know, if you don't cook, it would be pork and beans and corn chips rather than corn bread, so you don't have to cook. One of my friend's husband lived, he lived in his car. He actually did, yeah. And he had 7 cans of food per day. He had, I think it was, everything was in 7s. 7 clothes he bought at the thrift store. I mean, he had it down to a science. And he would park, he did work. He would park in back of his jobs. And then sometimes he would find people who would let him stay in their homes for a while free until, you know, they would get tired and then, you know, he had to move on. But it was 7, he had 7 cans of food. Pork and beans for sure was one. So I was thinking of another thing that could be done. You know, this is just for my customers. A lot of times were men and they didn't like to cook. And one would go to Hometown Buffet and have chicken and salad every night, which is pretty cheap. And the other one, he would go to like an Italian restaurant and get a vegetarian lasagna, and and they would give you a huge one, and it was enough for 2 nights. Or those buy one get one free deals that restaurants have. I might try to find some of those. So okay, that's my chat on car food. And I'll be doing some more of this, so God bless you all.